Good evening. Welcome to our special meeting of Municipal Council for Tuesday, May the 11th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Seeing none, I will move along to item C, and that's deputations, and we have no deputations tonight. However, item D is our workshop, and that's why we're here tonight, to have a workshop. And with that, I will turn it over to staff to start with the Environmental Initiatives Council workshop presentation.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and welcome to all to our evening special evening workshop tonight. And it's an exciting topic for us. It's the environment, and we're very proud of our track record with regards to the environment and stewardship, and have won many awards over the years. But there's always ways and means of getting better, and I think you're going to hear a lot about it tonight. I'd like to do just a little shout out to Michael Mendez to start. Michael is a good ally and friend, and he's really involved in the community. He chairs this committee and is supported by some wonderful volunteers as well. So they've done some excellent work. We met with the Madam Mayor and Councillor Carruthers earlier this year, and we had a commitment that we would bring it forward to a workshop. And you're going to hear today of some of the many recommendations and proposals that they asked for us to consider. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over to our staff team that's done a real bang-up job putting this together tonight. It's not the longest presentation. I think it's about 15 slides, so we would encourage questions and comments throughout, Madam Mayor, as you chair this. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over to General Manager Mike Molinari, who's going to introduce the staff team.
Thanks, Tom. I'm very pleased to introduce the Environmental Initiatives Workshop tonight. We have a detailed overview of the many environmental initiatives that have been completed to date, as well as those in progress, along with an outlook to the future. This is one of the first presentations that compiles all this information in one place, and it's great to see the extent to which environmental issues have been incorporated into our everyday works. So presenting tonight will be Jeff Meggett, our Director of Operations, Matthew Hemingway, our Environmental Operations Technologist, Renju Sudhakaran, who's actually on an intern through the CAO's office for the environmental initiatives. And we also have Aaron Karmazin, the GM of Community Parks, Recreation and Culture, and finally Lawrence Cook, the Manager of Planning. So Jeff, with that, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public with us tonight. We're excited to have the opportunity to discuss the environment and more specifically celebrate and highlight some of the environmental initiatives that the town continues to be engaged in. Today's workshop is an outcome from the EAC presentation on climate change, which was presented to council on March 23rd to raise awareness of the changes occurring to our climate every day. This workshop will be delivered by 4 staff, as Mike just said. So if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'd like to briefly introduce them to a little more detail. Lawrence Cook is the Manager of Planning and Development Services with over 15 years of development and policy planning within different municipalities, both here and as well as in Hong Kong. Matthew Hemingway is our Environmental Operations Technologist within the Water Wastewater branch of CIS and has served as the staff liaison on the Environmental Advisory Committee since 2016. Renju Sudhakaran works within customer service. Her previous experience includes working in the UK, the Yukon, and India. Renju's been working on environmental initiatives projects under the CAO partnership for the past year, and we thank her for all her efforts in pulling together the great initiatives that we'll be discussing tonight. And last but not least, I'm Jeff Meggett, Director of Operations. I bring 30 years of public works experience, including extensive environmental projects within both waste and fleet. And I have to mention, I'm also a proud electric vehicle owner, when my wife let me drive it at least. But since we're only here for an hour, I won't stop talking about what a transformational car a Tesla truly is. So we'll go on to the next slide, please. Shown on the screen is our current strat plan. in place for this term of council. The 4 strategic pillars have a strong focus on the environment and help guide the town's services and future direction. This strategic vision continues to guide all policies and programs. I'd like to briefly highlight the important role that is placed on the environmental sustainability within this strategic plan. So next slide, please. On screen are specific environmental areas of focus within each of the 4 pillars. The first, responsible growth and environmental protection. This pillar promotes the stewardship, preservation, conservation, protection, and enhancement of the town's natural environment. It preserves the town's cultural heritage while supporting sustainable development. The second pillar is building complete communities. The environment is focused through managing new and existing assets to deliver services while ensuring a sustainable community. The third is quality programs and services, where we leverage natural resource features to connect residents to the environment. And the above objectives within these 3 pillars would not be possible without the 4th pillar, a culture of municipal excellence, where innovation and flexibility are highlighted and encouraged through all aspects of the town's programs and services. Next slide. Our current Thinking Green sustainability strategy was adopted by Council in 2009. It continues to serve us well. It has helped set the framework and direction for several award-winning environmental programs through the following 4 key principles: sustainable development, which outlines our development policy and sustainable community design objectives. It highlights LEED building standards, Energy Star, as well as water conservation standards within new development. Municipal operations and best practices provide programs such as fleet operations, litter reduction, recycling and waste diversion, public outreach to raise awareness and celebrate events such as Earth Hour as well as Earth Day, and provide a framework for green procurement policy. The third is natural environment that emphasizes our natural heritage, protection of natural resources. It highlights the town's role within the GTA Clean Air Council, as well as the importance of phosphorus reduction and our role within the Lake Simcoe watershed. And last but not least is the energy conservation, where we monitor greenhouse gas emissions, reducing and tracking of those emissions as well, improved energy efficiency, and encourage multimodal transportation and through community design elements. But 2009 was a long time ago. Arguably, it's time for a refresh and an opportunity to update this strategy. Now I'll pass the presentation on to Matt. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Jeff, and good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. As we continue to pursue a more environmentally conscious direction, the inclusion and cooperation between our residents and the township as a corporation is more important than ever. And the Environmental Advisory Committee, or EAC, plays an integral role in bridging that gap. The primary role of the EAC is to provide advocacy to council and staff on important environmental initiatives and topics, such as climate change awareness, thinking green sustainability policies, water conservation, waste diversion, and pollinator protection, just to name a few. The EAC includes 8 volunteer residents, along with Councillor Carruthers, who together provide a diversified expertise on the subject matter through a variety of their educational and professional backgrounds, but most importantly, a passion for the safety and sustainability of our environment. Next slide, please. The EAC's emphasis on public education and awareness, but also community involvement, is achieved through its numerous community events and projects. Some examples of these include our annual litter cleanup, also known as the much catchier Green Up Cleanup event, as well as providing year-round support and materials to independently coordinated cleanup efforts. For our recent Earth Day promotion, we encouraged resident participation through social media messaging and have started the annual tradition of flying an official Earth Day flag at the Civic Center to show our support. To improve our messaging to the residents and to coincide with the launch of the town's new website, the EAC is working hard to improve on their dedicated educational content and create an increased social media presence. Most recently, they launched the No Mow May event, which is encouraging residents not to mow their lawn for the month of May in an effort to protect pollinators during this crucial time of the season. And finally, In just the past year, the EAC's waste diversion efforts have resulted in the successful deployment of battery recycling stations at 3 of our municipal facilities and the implementation of 2 textile recycling bins at both our sports complex and the Metrolinx GO station at Green Lane. And I should mention, since the launch in December, they've already diverted 6.5 metric tons from landfills at the sports complex alone. The Environmental Advisory Committee has many achievements to date, but as we all know, environmental sustainability is not a finite process. And as the town continues to grow and evolve, so too will the EAC, and we can expect to see more great things to come. And with that, I will now introduce our General Manager of Community Parks, Recreation and Culture, Aaron Karmazin, to discuss the Health and Active Living Plaza.
Thanks, Matthew. Through you, Madam Mayor, as a member of the Health and Active Living Plaza design team, I'm thrilled to be working with members of the Environmental Advisory Committee and a net zero consultant to determine ways in which the HELP project can be a shining example of environmental leadership. Net zero strives to reduce or offset our utility consumption to zero, but even better is to possibly eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. The consultant working with the town has now provided an initial report, and the design team is now performing an in-depth analysis of the report for a further report back to Council, the Environmental Advisory Committee, and the public. Staff are planning this report in late Q2 to early Q3 with some exciting industry-leading sustainability concepts that may be incorporated into the HELP project. An example of this is potentially one of the largest, most environmentally friendly roof structures in York Region, featuring white roof technology, rainwater harvesting, and a visible educational green roof structure. So stay tuned. I'll now pass the presentation to Renju Sakaran. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm Renju Sudhakaran. As part of the CAO's internship program, I'm currently conducting a research on the environmental initiatives in the town and across the NSEX. To date, I have connected with the various departments such as engineering, parks, and planning, and I have also contacted most of the N6 municipalities to see where they are at in terms of environmental initiatives. In my research, the town of East Gwillimbury is doing very well, and with the number of environmental initiatives that we have. And we are on par with most of the N6 municipalities. On the slide here, you see 30 initiatives that are led by various departments in the town. To name a few, Thinking Green Development Standards. Here the town works with the developer and on a complete community initiative. This initiative will be explained in detail in one of the following slides. The example for facility conservation and demand management plan are the LED light retrofit, solar flower, and the EV solar charging station at the Civic Center. Also listed here is the litter pickup program. The town currently supports volunteers who wish to help clean up the community in a COVID-safe manner. We provide litter kits on request. These kits contain of biodegradable garbage bags, gloves, and a note on safety measures and bag collection. We have provided 80 kits on request in 2021 so far. Now I would like to invite Jeff to talk about some more initiatives. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Renju. Oh, my favorite topic, electric vehicles. I mentioned this earlier, and yeah, that's my Tesla down in the corner, so I'll make this one quick. Electric vehicles and charging stations are really a great example of multiple departments being involved in the same initiative. Planning and development, through their Thinking Green development standards, are implementing charging infrastructure through private developments, including green storage, field gate developments, even bare oaks. Currently, there are 11 such charging stations throughout the town. Yeah, that's my Tesla in front of shoppers, where 20 minutes of charging provides enough energy for shopping or for the complete shopping excursion. CPRC has also installed 2 charging stations at the Civic Center and two as well at the Operations Center, and are planning for additional infrastructure as new facilities such as the HELP come online. CIS is proud to have acquired 2 hybrid vehicles, and we're actively watching this evolving technology for both vehicles and equipment and look forward to the expansion of our electric unit fleet. Next slide, please. Protecting our natural environment is an important component of operations for both CIS and CPRC. Not only the protection of species at risk, as shown in the photo on the left, and its awareness of osprey nesting areas, but also control of invasive species. To control both plant and animal invasive species, such as the emerald ash borer, gypsy moth, phragmites, and other invasive plants, are routinely addressed as part of our normal maintenance activities. With a partnership with the LSRCA, water courses are maintained to remove debris and log jams where possible to ensure proper water flow and minimize flooding potential. Next slide, please. In 2019, the town was recognized by the LSRCA with a Healthy Water Award for our efforts to protect the Lake Simcoe watershed through our delivery of winter operations. Specifically, the town was recognized for 2 initiatives. The first, the town remains the only local municipality within the N6 which has opted for the use of liquid brine for pre-treatment of roadways. This pre-treatment has helped reduce the amount of salt required during winter events by reducing the likelihood of ice bonding to the road, which could require significant salt application to address this ice and the bond to the road. The historic use of at least 2 granular applications per winter event has been significantly reduced due to this road treatment program. The second element is the town's salt management plan. We've removed the annual use of 12,000 tons of winter sand from our program, and with the LSRCA support, transitioned to a reliance on treated salt application at the right amount at the right time as a primary tool within our winter operations strategy. This is an important initiative as sand has been identified by LSRCA as impacting fish habitat and directly impacting storm pond effectiveness through sand sediment accumulation within these ponds. Next slide. We are pleased to report that the current utilization of both biodiesel and ethanol blended gas at the operations center is being used for the fleet's fuel supply. These renewable fuel source additives help protect our natural resources and reduce our reliance on carbon-based fuel use. The graph on the left is a usage report that we received to help monitor how our equipment's utilized, how much fuel is consumed, the hours the machine is used, and the amount of fuel, or the amount of time in which it idled. For example, as shown during this week, the machine idled for 21% of its operating time. This data allows us to monitor and train staff on the benefits and the costs of excess idling. The final fleet strategy I'd like to mention is our continual improvement program for vehicle right sizing. We regularly review the use of fleet vehicles to ensure they're being utilized to the fullest potential, and that's when possible, smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles, which are suitable for the work, are incorporated into this replacement strategy. We'll be bringing a green fleet report to Council later in the fall to outline our fleet modernization and sustainability programs for further discussion with Council. Now I hand the presentation back to Renju. So next slide, please.
Hi, I'm back. So with the water consumption and conservation guidelines, the town has been working aggressively in reducing water consumption at a household level through our partnership with Water for Tomorrow program. We have also recently secured a consultant to understand and plan the reduction of water loss throughout the community. In the new development to reduce water usage, the town has also developed a Sustainable Development Incentive Program implementation guidelines with York Region to provide developers with the opportunity to obtain additional servicing allocation by satisfying various sustainability requirements, such as installing high-efficiency plumbing, fixtures, toilets, etc. For the Waste Reduction and Diversion Initiative, we have successfully deployed Blue-Green Bin program in our town. This program has helped achieve a diversion rate of 70%. Starting last year, the Development Services has completely moved to paperless application for all planning applications and building permits. Planning department planning applications are being circulated with programs like SharePoints and FTP sites. Our finance department is upgrading to electronic billing for property taxes and utility invoices too, which will be introduced to the residents soon. Next slide, please. Low impact design. Low impact development, or LID, is an innovative approach to land development that mimics the natural movement of water to manage stormwater. Traditional methods use large storm ponds to capture the runoffs, whereas LID uses smaller techniques like landscape features that filter, infiltrate, store, evaporate, and drain rainwater runoffs. Most common LID methods are permeable pavements, green roofs, and bioretentions, infiltration trenches and chambers, and bioswales. An example that you may have seen are islands with vegetation and rocks and parking lots. These features help reduce the runoff going into the municipal storm sewers. Although LID methods are dependent on soil condition, overall LID has several benefits, including stormwater volume control, flood reduction, water quality protection and improvement, and infrastructure saving. Also, through the Thinking Green Development Standards, the town has been urging developers to consider working with the Conservatory Authority to explore opportunities to implement LID methods in new developments. The next one is the Complete Community Initiative. On each development proposal received, the main goal is to develop a complete community. A complete community means a development that provides convenient access to an appropriate mix of jobs, local services, a full range of housing, a community infrastructure, including affordable housing, school, recreation, and open spaces. Also convenient access to public transportation and options for safe and non-motorized travel. Staff also considers the connectivity of the development with the overall pedestrian and cycling network on each development proposal. Next slide, please. Thank you. For the greenhouse, now we have our own greenhouse. So for the greenhouse and signature planting initiative, we have built a 24 by 60 foot greenhouse in the Operations Center, where we will be growing all our bedding plants and annual planters going forward. The plants are currently growing in the greenhouse are carpet bedding plants for the new carpet bed located in Children of Peace Park. The plants at the Civic Center sign bed, the picture in the middle, is purple phormium and yellow chrysanthemum. The plants on the railing boxes in the picture far right are purple sweet potato vines, blue cebula, and pink geranium. Tongue twisters, these are. These are drought plants that require less water, and we also have utilized self-watering planters here. Next slide, please. Thank you. Some of the activities that we undertake for the Protect and Enhance Our Natural Environment initiatives are maintaining a storm pond. The photo on the left is a great example of staff undertaking wetland planting maintenance. Our staff regularly strives to enhance our natural environment, storm pond, open and naturalized spaces through supportive planting, invasive species control, litter and debris removal, and water conveyance. For example, specific planting around storm ponds help filter stormwater runoff naturally before the water is discharged into the nearby watercourses. And monitoring and planting on slopes help ensure soil stability and unwanted erosion. The picture on the right is of our Operations Center. The development of the Operations Center is a wonderful example of the environment consideration in municipal building design. When you look at the picture, you will see that the Operations Center is fully lit up. However, motion-activated LED lightings are installed around the building to save hydro through reduction of unnecessary lighting and conserving energy significantly. Some of the other environmental friendly features of the Operations Centers are dark sky friendly outdoor lighting. It is used to ensure dark sky compliance. Perimeter windows to reduce heating and lighting requirements through solar solar gain. Rainwater harvesting helps in naturally irrigating the landscapes. Building automation and control system used in the operation center helps improve building efficiency and energy conservation. And finally, the design also includes additional EV charging stations, as Jeff mentioned before. This brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Lawrence to continue the presentation. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Renju. So as introduced by Renju previously, the Thinking Green Development Standards Program was designed to measure and evaluate the sustainable performances for new developments in town. Now, on every private and public development that needs a draft plan of subdivision or site plan application, the town staff will use this planning tool to help achieve our sustainable community vision. These standards are divided into 3 themes: protection and enhancement of the natural environment, conservation of energy and water, and design for complete communities. The first component of this relates to natural environment, as I said, and that this measure in this section is really to aim to minimize the impact of development on natural environment. So for example, if a development is nearby a natural heritage system, we would be asking for the developer to provide greater buffering than the minimum requirement, or restore any degraded natural heritage features. And to ensure that there's no net loss on canopy coverage, we would request developers to replace any tree removals as part of the development review. And as discussed earlier, the use of low impact development will help contribute to the overall improvement of the town's water quantity and quality. In the second component of the Thinking Green Development Standards, we speak to the conservation of both energy and water. And in an effort to reduce the town's environmental footprint by generating less waste and lower the greenhouse gas emission, and this measure in this section promotes green building technologies by restricting the use of potable water and encourage the renewable forms of energy. You see this in our recent example, the Wycliffe Retirement Home at the northwest corner of Leslie and Mount Albert Road, where there's a cool roof system being implemented to help reflect the summer heat and to help reduce the reliance of air conditioning on the warmer weather days. And on newer industrial developments on 73 Sluice Road, they use LED lights for all external lighting, and these fixtures will be down facing, installed on a timer, or motion sensors to implement dark sky lighting policies. And then Jeff mentioned about the Fieldgate Plaza, Young and Green Lane, as well as the proposed HELP project, that there are EV charging stations in place to encourage the use of electric vehicles. And in newer residential subdivision, rain harvesting for irrigation purposes are provided to reduce the use of potable water. The last component about the complete and connected communities is this measure really focuses on promoting community design. Renju talked about this earlier, but just to stretch it out further, it also includes a mixture of building types and uses and promotes active forms of transportation, including walking, cycling, public transit, to better connect people to places and places to people. So for example, on each residential development, staff will be ensuring it conforms to the town's active transportation trails master plan. We will review for opportunities for any adaptive reuse of heritage or existing dwellings. We'll try to orientate some of these buildings to maximize exposure to the sunlight. And we provide education to new homeowners to get a better understanding of the environmental features in their community, as well as their new homes. Next slide, please. So now that we've got a good understanding of where we've been and where do we go from here is the question. We can all agree that being a good steward of the environment comes with staying on top of the ever-changing topic as new science and technology emerges. Now, this is an opportunity to evolve the existing Thinking Green Development Standard strategy to provide a foundation for all future town initiatives and programs. This is also an opportunity to set out administrative structure and processes that results in better information sharing and coordination across all the town's departments on matters related to the environment. We can categorize initiatives so that we can focus on areas where the town can make the most impact. We can establish targets in support of the environmental goals and to evaluate progress and provide indicators to measure success. Because this is also a time for us to envision a council-directed framework to help decision makers determine priorities and resources required to successfully implementing them. And lastly, because environmental stewardship doesn't stay within the municipal offices, residents and community groups have an important role to play here as well. So it is very important for us to, when we move forward, we need to engage the community members on an ongoing basis and to develop informal partnerships and transparencies to respond to these emerging issues. Next slide, please. And as part of our best practice review, we looked at 5 different municipalities. We noticed a few common elements with their respective environmental strategy plans. Now, all municipalities had a clear focus on the goals that they have identified. And these goals are action-oriented with timeframes associated with it to measure their success. And there's accountability behind each action to determine who in the department is in charge of this matter. And finally, information is coordinated in one centralized area where the information related to environment is managed holistically across all departments in town. In this case, in the case of the town of Newmarket, this person's role holds the title of a senior climate change specialist. Next slide. So I'll take you a few slides to give you a snapshot of what the strategy looks like from the different municipalities we looked at. I'm going to start with the city of Brampton here, where they teamed up with Federal of Canadian Municipality, FCM, and Partners for Climate Protection Program, and obtain a consultant urban strategy to help complete their environmental master plan in 2012, which also got a recent update in 2020. Now, this update includes an action plan in it, and it shows in this slide that where it demonstrates a collaboration between departments. It has clear goals and priorities with a time frame to measure their success. And also in this slide, under the column benefit, where there's a couple of bubbles there, the city of Brampton took a list of their programs and initiatives, and then they organized them under 6 different core principles. What this effectively does, it visually shows where the city had put their efforts on. Now, if we have the opportunity to conduct a similar exercise here, we may be able to identify that we have a lot of programs and policies related to maybe energy, water, and waste, but we may need to spend a little bit more time on items such as air, land, and people. Next slide, please. And at the city of Mississauga, their master plan was first completed in 2012, and through a series of presentations, workshops, public consultation events, and discussions to lead to this Living Green Master Plan. In it, there are measurable performances once again. And then, for example, in this case, the city of Mississauga actually had data available to indicate the percentage of tree canopies in Mississauga. Now, these are clear targets, and there gives a transparency and objectives that could be used for reporting on an annual basis back to their council. Next slide. So within the N6 at the town of Aurora, a corporate environmental action plan was developed in 2018. Now, this project was executed under the leadership of the Program Manager on Environmental Initiative, who successfully coordinated directions from their town council, CAO, Environmental Advisory Committee, their Aurora's senior management team, and other key staff from various departments. What this plan does is that it provides a corporate directions on key strategic environmental initiatives over the next 5 years to improve the town's environmental performance and sustainability for their future generations. And next slide, please. Now, for the Township of King, it's called the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan. Now, their plan sets a longer-term goals than Aurora. It's more like a 20-year plan, but it originally established in 2012. The sustainability plan goes beyond setting targets just for the environment. It sets it for culture, it sets it for financial, economics targets as well. But within their environmental portion, the Township of King has a corporate climate change coordinator who monitors these items and who reports on their climate change inventory programs and activities. If you skip to the next slide, there might be a duplicate, but let's have a look. Yep, so that concludes the best practice review. I'm going to pass this back to Jeff for the summary and the next steps here.
Thanks, Lawrence. In summary, the Thinking Green sustainability strategy was adopted by Council in 2009. This environmental strategy has served the town well and has helped deliver a number of award-winning programs, as mentioned previously. We hope this workshop was a helpful highlight of all the great environmental initiatives that have occurred and that continue to occur. As we move forward, it is clear that climate change issues are rapidly evolving, and there's a need to react and deploy new programs quickly while utilizing emerging funding opportunities when possible. Most recently, this was highlighted by the EAC, or the Environmental Advisory Committee, under their pollinator awareness program, together with climate change awareness that they presented a short few months ago. Next slide, please. As next steps, we believe that it's prudent to develop a dedicated climate change coordinator, which has been highlighted by Lawrence as being effective in other N6 municipalities to lead their sustainability plans. This position, with a corporate focus and environmental expertise, can help provide clear areas of focus for emerging environmental initiatives while keeping us on track. We see this position as necessary to continue to collect baseline information and coordinate with the N6 to leverage further partnerships where similarities exist. This position would also play a key role within the EAC as the town's subject matter expert on the various environmental projects and future direction of the town's environmental vision. Through public, council, and staff engagement, the current Thinking Green sustainability strategy could be renewed and refined to address the town's current vision and provide a clear, unified sustainability path forward. So on that, on behalf of Aaron, Lawrence, Matt, and Renju, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to celebrate and highlight the town's environmental accomplishments, and we welcome any questions or your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, staff. Wow, a lot of material here. Thank you so much. I know that many members, if not all of members of council, have been talking about our environment and the kinds of things that we feel should be happening in East Gwillimbury. We've been leaders over the years, and I believe we continue to be even now. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Could I ask if there's any questions from members of council, please? Councillor Crone, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff, thank you for a great presentation. You know, this is an area where I don't think we do enough bragging about or communicating about the things that we do. And certainly, I learned a lot more about some of our track record tonight, which is a good thing. But you know, I don't think we can ever do enough when it comes to the environment. It's sort of an ongoing task, just like community safety. You're never really finished. With respect to the new position that you're proposing here, to me it sounds, and I'm very interested and curious about it. To me, when I read it, I immediately thought this is sort of an environmental version of what we did with our economic development director. So, like an environmental version of Margot Bejean. Is that a fair comparison? Madam
Mayor, I would be prepared to respond to that. Yes, it would, and hopefully the person we hire has as much energy and is successful as Margot has been. That's a good analogy, though. Part of our issue at this point, if I could, Madam Mayor, has been we've never had one person clearly identified to carry this role, and it's sort of been bolted on to people's jobs as an add-on, and we don't think it's given enough priority or the ability to collaborate in the way we best could. And so that is a very good analogy you brought forward, and it would be similar in that approach, that it would be a one-person initiative, but it would collaborate with all of the functional areas in our organization and other organizations as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I appreciate the comment about it being sort of corner of desk. And I know from my previous career that anytime we had something that there was a task that was at the corner of people's desks, they just never got around to doing it because they always got caught up in the whirlwind of the day-to-day. And so if you can have someone that's dedicated to it, I think it'll be much more effective in the long term. So I think you're on the right track. Just one more question, if I might. We spoke a little bit about charging stations, and Mr. Maggot loves electric vehicles, and I think that's awesome. I'd love to see more charging stations around town. Certainly at our libraries, the sports complex. I think I was told that we might be having some at the Ops Center. Any chance we have, and I know there's grants available, I would really encourage staff to dig on this one. I think this is something tangible that we can show to the public that we are serious about embracing the future of EV charging, and the fact that electric vehicles aren't a fad; they're here to stay, and so we need to accommodate more of our residents to have them. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff, I wanted to congratulate you all, and especially Renju, who's taken on quite a challenging role, and I think everyone here who has presented tonight has shone. And it's interesting because Mr. Webster and Councillor Crone talked about edge of desk, and that this is a second thought for many of our staff. I took a different lens, and I felt that through this presentation, it was clear to me that the environment was a lens through which virtually all of our operations were delivered, and that every step we take, we ask ourselves whether this is good for the environment, or how could we make this greener, or how could we make this more friendly to the earth. And so I actually saw it a different way, and I saw that the provisions that we had put in to our strategic plan about the environment and how important it was to us were actually showing through in our everyday operations. So I took a slightly different approach to that. What I wanted to do, for me, there was a couple of thoughts. One was I felt that we've done a really good job in the past of developing our talent in-house. And on other initiatives where other communities have gone to the expense of hiring a consultant, we've delivered results for our community using our own staff expertise and talents and developing those people in-house. And it's clear that we have a great deal of bench strength already on our bench, and a lot of strength there. And so I really feel strongly that we should be just continuing to develop those people. And whether there's one person who rises forward who's going to sort of carry the torch as a major responsibility, that's for us to decide later. But a couple of more thoughts. One, the charging station. I believe those charging stations are an optional under our Thinking Green Development Standards. And perhaps if we are going to review them, which they clearly need to be updated, perhaps we need to just make that a requirement for developments whenever they're making a parking lot of a certain size. That's just it's a given rather than an optional points driven opportunity for them. And finally, my one question is, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is sort of program driven and results focused. I wonder if we have, early on, there was a great deal of focus on greenhouse gases and emissions targets. Do we have a handle on what we are generating as far as greenhouse gases are concerned? And if so, that would then create a benchmark for us and some very not necessarily achievable, but very measurable targets that we could use to decide whether we are achieving our goals or not in reducing those greenhouse gases. So do we have a benchmark to understand where we're at and where we want to take this? Thank you.
Mr. Webster, could you direct that question?
I certainly could. It's an excellent question. You can take a look at it and take a look at your own organization, one bubble, or you could take a look at the town as a much larger bubble, an initiative. And the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority actually did some work, but they initially looked at their own organization. And with regards to our own organization, I know we have done considerable work with respect to our facilities and fleet. And maybe I could pass it over to Mr. Meggitt to highlight some of those initiatives. As far as town-wide greenhouse gas emissions and targets, I'm not familiar with any real progress we've made at this point in time, but Mr. Meggitt may correct me.
Thank you, Tom. No, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's a real challenge, and quite honestly, it's a very complicated indicator to pull together and have it accurate. A lot of municipalities take the step of hiring consultants, and I think I completely agree with you that there's an opportunity to deal with this in-house, but that a fair amount of work has to go in to make sure that it's accurate data and meaningful. And it's very, very involved just because how inclusive it is. There's been some great comments even through COVID of the carbon savings and the greenhouse savings by staff working from home and not coming into work every day. It's including all those variables and all those facts that make it complicated and repeatable. That's the other thing. It's great to have this KPI, but let's make sure we can measure success on a go-forward basis. So right now, it's a gap that we've identified, and it's something in the fullness of time that we hope we can bring forward.
Madam Mayor, if I think we can also ask General or Deputy CAO Valchich to speak, who heads the COVID response. And part of our 14-month response has been remote working, and I think he wants to provide a little bit of intelligence on that as well.
Thanks, Mr. Webster, and Madam Mayor, through you. Yeah, just to pick up a little bit on what Mr. Meggitt was saying, one of the most significant impacts that we've seen resulting from our modernization efforts and our sort of remote work setup and virtual work circumstances is with the dramatic reduction in car travel to and from the office and so on, significant reduction in carbon emissions. In fact, it is something that we can quantify. I don't believe we have that number for you this evening, but there are means of actually quantifying what that impact has been over the last year. And so as we move forward in our discussions on the COVID recovery front, in terms of what a post-COVID optimal service delivery model will look like and sort of what the workplace will look like, part of it, in my mind, is an important consideration around environment. It is largely driven, obviously, by trying to ensure we have good value for money for residents and the very best cost control and excellent program and service delivery and customer service. But there's also a really important consideration there that we can factor in around what impact we're having on the environment in terms of how we deliver programs and services, how we organize our workplace and schedule and organize working conditions for employees, and really trying to minimize that use of car travel. So it is another factor that's a really important one that we have to think about, in my mind, as we go forward in things as simple as, you know, how we develop the post-COVID workplace.
Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I guess I just want to kind of go along with what Councillor Roy Clemente had mentioned. I would really like to see someone in-house kind of morph into the position that we're talking about, if that's a good way to say it. You know, that way we can be a little bit more being able to tell our taxpayers that, you know, we have an internal employee and we have slowly dedicated more time to that employee and made this position usable rather than just going out and creating a new position right away. And I do like to hear what Mr. Valchik just said, that, you know, if we can come up with ways to, I guess, kind of come up with facts and figures on how we are doing ourselves, so we can pat ourselves on the back with some of the initiatives that we have in town. And you know, I say that because again, I like to think of myself as a down-to-earth kind of person, and I know that someone somewhere is going to read about environmental stuff, and I'm going to get a phone call that says something as simple as, you know, I saw 3 town trucks turn up at the same job with 1 person in each truck. How environmentally friendly is that? And we can make those excuses all day long. You know, they came from 3 different places and all the rest of it. But I really think that we have to try and keep as many of those numbers as we can. So again, we have those answers and we can pat ourselves on the back, because I believe we are doing a great job.
Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm having terrible internet issues tonight, so if I'm frozen, just let me know. I want to start by thanking Jeff and Matt for all the work that they've done with our Environment Committee, and also, of course, the committee members. We have such hardworking volunteers, and from them, such a wealth of expertise. I'm very excited about creating this position for someone to champion environmental initiatives within the town, because by dealing with these volunteers on a daily basis, I see the expertise that's out there. And I think it's time that we brought some of that expertise in-house, and so that we could have people who can be advising across departments what the latest technology is, what the latest standards are, what other towns are doing. We were speaking about emission standards, and I know Brampton has community emission targets that they're trying to reach by, I think, 2041. Is that something that we want to do? I hear the dialogue about how much it would cost to try and figure out what our emissions are. And I know that some places are looking at what actions and what strategies are in place, and are they meeting those targets, as opposed to trying to spend too much time extrapolating what they think the actual emissions are. Just, are we meeting the goals that we've set for ourselves as far as strategies and new initiatives? I think that we've done so much as evidenced in this, but I think we're going to find that very quickly as we come out of COVID and we have a continued focus on the environment, that soon everything that we're doing is going to quickly be not enough, as we're told to do more and more. So I think we're ahead of the curve by making sure that we get the expertise that we need, and having someone who's dedicated to this to lend a hand across departments, making sure that we're doing everything that we can for the environment. Because as the presentation that we had from the committee a few meetings ago showed us, it's not going away anytime soon. And with everything we're doing, we need to continue doing that and do even more. So I want to thank staff for bringing forward this presentation, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morton, do you have your hand up?
Just a comment. I've been listening to all the other councillors, and I don't disagree with any one of them. But my one concern is we are going to be working, and staff are going to be working so hard on this, setting a limit for ourselves and everything else. How are we going to make the public get involved in this as well?
I'm not seeing anyone volunteering to come up with an answer. I think you've planted a question that all of us, I think, one way or another, are thinking. How do we do that? What are the steps that need to take place to have all of our residents supporting and ensuring that they understand how important it really is? Mr. Maggot, did you, I see your face here now. You might have an answer for us?
No, I'll jump into that. As Councillor Morton said, I completely agree. That's probably the most important thing. Not so much measuring what we're doing, but it's conveying to the public what they can do, how they can make a difference within their own home and their own lifestyle. And that to me is a great role of the Environmental Advisory Committee. They've been doing such a good grassroots conveyance of information and providing that information, that literature, that expertise on the public website and within the AAC group specifically, I think bodes well. And the time is going to come in the short future, hopefully, that the Environmental Advisory Committee is getting out to public meetings and getting out to public events to help convey that message directly. And the staff lead in this new position furthers that opportunity to convey that factual information to the public and help them truly make differences within their own life.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the other thing is that I would argue that our residents are already on side, and whenever we go and poll them and ask them what's important to them, our green spaces and our trails and those sorts of things come to the top every time. And so, I think our residents are already there with us. And secondly, I think that's partly our job as members of council to provide leadership to the community and help get the word out that this is the direction that we want to take the town. So to be frank, that's our role here too. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
I see Councillor Carruthers has her hand up, so maybe it'd be more appropriate to let her speak. I was just going to provide some perspectives as well. So.
Thank you. To answer Councillor Morton's questions, it really is, what Jeff talked about. We need to provide our residents with education and resources. We need to provide them with things like the EV charging stations, things like the battery recycling, the textile recycling. So we need to look at what can we do to help our residents who want to do more for the environment, to help fight climate change. And already we're doing a lot, but there is so much more that needs to be done. Our Environment Committee has quite a lengthy list of topics they want to get to, but we're cognizant of staff time, and I think that's why we're all very excited about this new position, so that we can get to some of these other issues that we've had on the back burner for a while. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I'll go to Mr. Webster. You had.
I actually I wanted to go back to the last slide if I could. We tend to work pretty hard at these. So this is the next steps. And usually it's the most informative slide in the presentation because it talks about what we're going to collectively do. So if Tara could put that up, there was 3 key areas that we had there. We had the notion of a dedicated resource, be it developed in-house or some other creative way, but we've been pretty good over the years with our Shamrock model that we're well familiar with of getting in a good direction in a very cost-effective way. You see the roles and responsibilities in some of those work initiatives that we would be trying to prioritize, but most importantly, to speak to Councillor Morton's question specifically, you can see with the evolving vision and actions, the continual dialogue with the Staff Advisory Committee, Council, and importantly, community engagement continuing to be a key element of this strategy as it evolves and moves forward. So it's there, and it's a very important part that we involve the community and public in all of our programs and initiatives. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Other questions, comments? Councillor Persichini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is great. Everybody's doing a great job, but we need on board the community, the region, the province, and the federal to work just as hard as we could be in the bubble, but if it goes outside and then the other people not doing it, I think we need to enforce or go out there, promote as much as we can, and get everyone on board, because this is the only way that we're going to make a better place to live and breathe better and get all the stuff. But you need to get the region, the province, the federal, in the community engagement as much as we can, and so we can have a clean air, environment. We do it in East Glendale. What about the rest of the people? We need to fight and work with them, and very closely say, hey, we're doing it, but come aboard, and maybe we should get whoever gets to do more, maybe get a prize or something, like promote it in such a way. So we all need to work together. We're all, as I say, we're all in this together. Thank you. Great job on the presentation, by the way.
Thank you very much. I think the one thing that we've been doing for the last several years as far as the environment is we're leading by example. And our residents know that. There's not many people now that move into town or that live in the town that don't talk about the green, thinking green, and the green strategies that we already have. And I think it's just a matter of continuing. I think it's going to be very important while we have initiatives that we also have evaluations of those initiatives to continually make sure that they are hitting the mark, and how can we move them forward on a long-term basis. I believe we're on the right path. I think our residents believe that, and in many cases when you see homes that are for sale in East Gwillimbury and they talk about the Thinking Green initiative, people know it as well. So I thank you to staff. Wonderful presentation. Certainly, I'm going to be weeks from now writing little notes on the corner of things, thinking about projects and ideas that we can do, and as far as getting our residents together and promoting with them, they will be our greatest ally in getting it out to the community as well. So with that, I'll just ask if there's any other questions or comments at this time. I'm not seeing any. I really want to thank staff. I know that you have put a tremendous amount of effort into this presentation tonight. It's been excellent. I'm hoping that this isn't the only time that this presentation is presented, that we use these slides to make sure that any opportunity that we have to promote our Thinking Green, they're here, they're great slides, they've got a lot of material, and let's continue to use those as a message along the way. With that, could I have Laura Lee and Scott move the presentation, be it resolved that an Environmental Initiatives Council workshop presentation dated May 11th, 2021 be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have a confirming bylaw, be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-044, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a special meeting of Municipal Council held on May the 11th, 2021, be taken as read and acted and signed by the Mayor and Municipal Clerk. Terry and Tara, could I have you move that, please? Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. And I have 703, be it resolved that the special meeting of Municipal Council adjourn at 7:03. And could I have Kathy and Joe move and second that, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. Well done. Have a good evening.
Take care.